Marcus Chen adjusted his position in the uncomfortable Vraxian design chair, watching as his classmates filed into advanced tactical applications. The classroom buzzed with the usual mix of chittering, harmonic tones, and electromagnetic pulses that passed for conversation among the diverse species at Galactic Military Academy. As the only human in his cohort, Marcus had grown accustomed to being the odd one out, but today felt different somehow. Commander ZYX floated into the room, her crystalline form refracting the harsh station lighting into prismatic rainbows across the walls. The ethereal instructor's voice resonated directly in their minds through quantum telepathy, a sensation Marcus still found unsettling after 6 months aboard Kepler 7 station. Today we explore improvised weaponry, ZYX announced, her mental voice carrying undertones of challenge. In real combat situations, you will not always have access to your standard-issue plasma rifles or quantum disruptors. Sometimes survival depends on your ability to create effective weapons from whatever materials are available. The class stirred with interest. Korvac, a hulking Threnodai warrior, flexed his forearms confidently. His people had dominated galactic warfare for 3 centuries with their biomechanical enhancements. Beside him, Zeta Prime's optical sensors whirred as the synthetic being calculated probable weapon configurations from the classroom's available materials. You have 30 minutes to construct a functional weapon using only what you find in this room, ZYX continued. No molecular assemblers, no nanite fabrication, no energy manipulation beyond basic friction and leverage. Demonstrate both construction and effectiveness. Marcus surveyed the classroom while his alien classmates immediately began claiming materials. The standard military academy setup offered plenty of options: polymer desks with carbon fiber reinforcement strips, elastic cording used for equipment restraints, metallic styluses, various electronic components, and even some decorative elements from different homeworlds. While Korvac began dismantling a desk to create what looked like a crude club, and several Quellian students worked together on some kind of projectile launcher, Marcus found himself thinking differently about the challenge. His grandfather had been a traditional archery enthusiast back on Earth, one of the few who maintained the old skills even after humanity joined the Galactic Federation. Those childhood summers learning to craft bows and arrows suddenly seemed incredibly relevant. He started by examining the structural supports of the classroom furniture. The desks used a flexible carbon fiber composite designed to withstand the various gravitational and atmospheric conditions different species required. Perfect for a bow stave. The elastic restraint cords could serve as bowstring material if properly braided and reinforced. Interesting choice, human, observed Cathare, a serpentine naga whose species specialized in energy weapons. You appear to be constructing a projectile device, but the design is unfamiliar. Marcus didn't look up from his work as he carefully removed a 3-foot strip of carbon fiber from beneath a desktop. It's based on an ancient human weapon called a bow. We used them for thousands of years before developing firearms. Primitive projectile weapons are inefficient compared to modern alternatives, stated Zeta Prime matter-of-factly. Electromagnetic railguns achieve superior velocity and accuracy. Maybe, Marcus replied, testing the flexibility of his improvised stave. But railguns need power cells and maintenance. This just needs me. As he worked, Marcus could feel the attention of the class shifting toward his project. Most of his classmates were creating recognizable weapons, impact devices, simple launchers, even a few energy concentrators jury-rigged from the room's lighting systems. His bow was something entirely outside their experience. The construction required patience and precision that seemed to puzzle his classmates. While they rushed to complete functional weapons, Marcus methodically shaped his stave, carefully notched the ends, and began the delicate process of braiding elastic cord into a proper bowstring. He'd found some metallic styluses that could serve as arrow shafts, though he'd need to improvise fletching and points. 10 minutes remaining, ZYX announced. Marcus was behind schedule, but that was intentional. He'd learned in his first months at the academy that rushing impressed no one here. These species had all mastered rapid manufacturing and instant solutions. What they hadn't experienced was the human approach to crafting tools with deliberate care and understanding. Vex 9, an insectoid hive mind representative, approached with obvious curiosity. Query: purpose of curved structure unclear. Weapon mechanism not apparent. It stores and releases energy through mechanical tension, Marcus explained, stringing his completed bow and testing the draw weight. The improvised weapon felt solid in his hands, though far from perfect. Watch. He'd fashion crude arrows from the metal styluses, adding plastic fins torn from notebook dividers as fletching. The points were simply sharpened metal, but they would demonstrate the concept effectively enough. Around the room, other students were putting finishing touches on their weapons. Korvac had created an impressive war club with metal reinforcements. A group of crystalline students had somehow configured a resonance weapon that could shatter certain molecular structures. The synthetic students had built what appeared to be a miniature mass driver. Marcus noticed that despite their diverse approaches, every other weapon in the room followed predictable patterns: impact weapons, explosive devices, energy projectors, or electromagnetic launchers. They were all thinking within the technological frameworks they knew best. Time, ZYX commanded. The students arranged themselves in a rough circle, their improvised weapons ready for demonstration. Marcus took his place in the lineup, conscious that his bow looked almost comically simple compared to the sophisticated devices his classmates had constructed. "We will begin with Korvac," ZYX announced. "Demonstrate your weapon's capabilities." The massive Threnodai warrior approached the testing area where holographic targets had appeared. His biomechanical enhancements whined as he lifted his improvised club and struck a test target with devastating force. The impact registered significant kinetic energy transfer, and the target's damage assessment flashed impressive numbers. "Effective at close range," ZYX observed. "Limited by user reach and requires significant strength." Next. One by one, his classmates demonstrated their creations. Energy weapons showed precision but limited ammunition. Projectile launchers offered range but suffered from poor accuracy. The crystalline resonance weapon could destroy specific materials but was useless against others. Each demonstration revealed both capabilities and limitations that ZYX noted with professional detachment. When Marcus's turn came, he stepped forward with his bow and improvised arrows. The classroom fell unusually quiet, even for a mixed-species environment. Most of them had never seen a weapon like this, and many seemed genuinely curious about what this primitive human device could possibly accomplish. Marcus selected his testing distance carefully. Too close and the bow's advantages wouldn't be apparent. Too far and his improvised arrows might not maintain accuracy. He settled on a position that showcased the weapon's versatility without overreaching its capabilities. The first arrow flew straight and true, striking the holographic target with a satisfying thunk as it embedded in the barrier behind. The energy readings were modest compared to Korvac's devastating club strikes, but the range was triple what any other kinetic weapon had achieved. "Interesting," ZYX observed. "Demonstrate rate of fire." Marcus had hoped she'd ask that question. He knocked, drew, aimed, and released in fluid succession. 4 arrows struck the target in rapid sequence, each finding a different scoring zone with consistent accuracy. The display showed impact timings that surprised even him. "Range?" ZYX inquired. Marcus moved to the far end of the classroom and repeated his demonstration. Even at maximum distance, his arrows found their targets with acceptable precision. Several of his classmates exchanged what Marcus had learned to recognize as expressions of surprise across multiple species. But the real test came when ZYX activated the mobile targets. Tracking moving objects was where most improvised weapons failed completely. Korvac's club was useless beyond arm's reach. The projectile launchers couldn't adjust quickly enough. Energy weapons that required setup time couldn't keep up with evasive movement. Marcus had grown up hunting virtual prey in simulated forests, learning to lead targets and predict movement patterns. As the holographic targets began their evasive patterns, he found himself falling into instincts developed over years of practice. The bow became an extension of his intentions, translating his tracking instincts into precise projectile placement. Arrow after arrow found moving targets that had baffled more sophisticated weapons. Marcus wasn't just demonstrating a functional improvised weapon, he was revealing an entirely different approach to ranged combat that none of them had considered. When the demonstration ended, the classroom remained unusually quiet. Marcus lowered his bow and waited for ZYX's assessment, aware that every optical sensor, audio receiver, and telepathic field in the room was focused on him. Commander ZYX floated closer to examine the bow, her crystalline form pulsing with what Marcus had learned indicated deep thought. "Explain the principles behind your weapons operation, Cadet Chen." Marcus held up the bow, indicating its key components. "It's based on stored mechanical energy. Drawing the string back stores potential energy in the flexed limbs. releasing converts that to kinetic energy in the projectile. The design allows for quick target acquisition, rapid reload, and doesn't require external power or sophisticated manufacturing. Primitive but elegant, observed Dr. Kelverin, the Altarian strategic studies professor who had quietly entered to observe. No electromagnetic signature, no energy discharge to detect, minimal resource requirements for ammunition. His multiple eyes focused on Marcus with obvious interest. This weapon predates your species' entry into galactic civilization, correct? By several thousand years, Marcus confirmed. We used variations of this design from before recorded history through the early industrial period. Some human cultures still maintain these skills for sport and tradition. The implications weren't lost on the military minds in the room. Here was a weapon system that sophisticated sensors might not even recognize as a threat, that required no supply chain beyond basic materials, and that could be manufactured by a single individual with minimal tools. In an era of galaxy-spanning logistics and technological dependence, the BAO represented something almost revolutionary in its simplicity. ZYX's mental voice carried new undertones as she addressed the class. Cadet Chen has demonstrated an important principle that many advanced civilizations forget: effectiveness does not always correlate with technological complexity. Simple solutions can possess advantages that sophisticated alternatives lack. As the class period ended and students began filing out, Marcus noticed several of them approaching to examine his improvised BAO more closely. Questions came in various forms of communication: direct speech, harmonic frequencies, electromagnetic pulses, even chemical signals from the insectoid students. What struck him most was the genuine curiosity in their inquiries. These beings came from civilizations that had mastered faster-than-light travel, quantum computing, and energy manipulation technologies that seemed like magic even to advanced humans. Yet they were fascinated by a weapon their ancestors might have dismissed as hopelessly primitive. Walking back to his quarters through Kepler-7's diverse habitat sections, Marcus reflected on the day's unexpected success. He'd entered advanced tactical applications expecting to struggle with exotic technologies and alien strategic thinking. Instead, he'd found that sometimes the oldest human solutions could offer new perspectives to the galaxy's most advanced minds. His communicator chimed with a message from Commander ZYX: report to Strategic Innovation Laboratory tomorrow at 0800. Bring your improvised weapon. We have much to discuss. Marcus smiled, wondering what his grandfather would think about his childhood archery lessons becoming relevant to galactic military doctrine. Sometimes the past held keys to the future that no one expected to find. The Strategic Innovation Laboratory occupied an entire deck of Kepler-7 station, its vast chambers equipped with holographic testing environments that could simulate any battlefield conditions imaginable. Marcus arrived precisely at 0800, carrying his improvised BAO and the few remaining arrows he'd crafted from classroom supplies. Commander ZYX waited for him alongside Dr. Kelverin and two individuals Marcus didn't recognize: a tall, ethereal being whose species he couldn't identify, and what appeared to be a floating geometric construct that pulsed with soft blue energy. Cadet Chen, ZYX's mental voice carried formal undertones. Allow me to introduce Strategic Coordinator Ventka of the Nexus Collective, and Research Director Axiom 7 from the Synthetic Consciousness Alliance. Your demonstration yesterday has generated considerable interest among the Academy's leadership. Marcus snapped to attention, suddenly, aware that this meeting had implications far beyond his individual academic performance. The Nexus Collective represented over 400 species in the galaxy's core systems, while the Synthetic Alliance coordinated the activities of 17 different artificial intelligence civilizations. At ease, human, Ventka spoke through a translation device that rendered their harmonic language into standard galactic. We are not here to judge but to learn. Your weapon represents tactical approaches we had not previously considered. Axiom 7's geometric form shifted as they communicated through direct data transmission to Marcus's neural implant. Query: can you construct additional examples of this technology? Parameters, different materials, various scales, alternative applications? Yes, sir, Marcus replied, still somewhat overwhelmed by the situation. BAO designs are highly adaptable. Different materials and construction techniques can optimize for specific purposes: long-range accuracy, rapid fire, armor penetration, or silent operation. Dr. Kelverin activated the laboratory's holographic systems, creating a detailed three-dimensional workspace around them. Demonstrate these variations, Cadet. The laboratory can provide any materials you specify within reason. Marcus found himself in the unique position of teaching advanced military strategists about technologies their civilizations had never developed. He began with the basics, explaining how different bow designs had evolved on Earth to meet specific needs. For maximum range and accuracy, humans developed what we called longbows, Marcus explained as he worked with laboratory-provided carbon composites. Simple design, but requiring significant training and strength. Medieval English longbows could accurately engage targets at distances exceeding 300 meters. As he shaped the tall, narrow stave, Marcus noticed his audience taking detailed recordings. Venthka's species apparently communicated through chemical emissions that the translation system rendered as excitement and curiosity. For rapid engagement in confined spaces, we created shorter recurve designs, Marcus continued, assembling a second bow with dramatically different proportions. Less range than a longbow, but faster to aim and reload, better suited for mobile combat. Axiom 7's form pulsed brighter. Observation: these designs optimize for different tactical parameters using identical basic principles. Efficiency impressive compared to multiple specialized weapon systems. The real surprise came when Marcus demonstrated compound bow mechanics using the laboratory's advanced materials. By incorporating pulley wheels and mechanical advantage systems, he created a weapon that combined the power of traditional designs with reduced physical requirements for the user. Remarkable, breathed Dr. Kelverin as Marcus drew the compound bow to full extension with obvious ease despite its massive draw weight. Your species developed mechanical systems that allow individuals to exceed their natural physical limitations without requiring technological power sources. Commander Zyax observed the demonstration with growing interest. Show us ammunition variations, Cadet Chen. Are projectiles limited to simple pointed shafts? Marcus grinned, remembering hours spent crafting specialized arrows with his grandfather. Using laboratory fabrication systems, he began creating examples that made his alien audience exchange what he'd learned were expressions of amazement. Standard hunting points for soft targets, Marcus explained, holding up arrows with broad, sharp heads. Bodkin points for armor penetration, narrow, extremely hard, designed to punch through metal plates. He fabricated examples as he spoke, the laboratory's advanced materials allowing him to create perfect specimens. For specialized applications, humans developed incendiary arrows carrying combustible materials, rope-cutting arrows with crescent-shaped heads, even signal arrows that created noise or visual markers. Marcus paused, considering whether his next example might be too dramatic. We also created arrows designed to deliver chemical payloads, though those raise ethical considerations. Venthka's translation device conveyed obvious interest. Demonstrate range and accuracy variations between your different designs. The laboratory's holographic systems created a comprehensive testing environment with targets at varying distances and defensive configurations. Marcus selected his longest range setup, a powerful compound bow with aerodynamically perfect arrows crafted from the lab's advanced materials. His first shot traveled further than any projectile weapon his classmates had managed the day before, striking a target with precision that impressed even him. The laboratory's advanced materials had created a bow far superior to anything historical humans could have imagined. Impressive, but predictable, Axiom 7 observed. Superior materials yield superior performance. Show us tactical applications that advanced technology cannot easily replicate. Marcus considered the challenge, then smiled. Silent operation, he said simply. He nocked an arrow and drew the bow, but, instead of immediately releasing, he held the position while explaining, most advanced weapons generate energy signatures, electromagnetic emissions, or acoustic reports that can be detected and traced. A bow properly constructed produces minimal noise, no electromagnetic signature, and leaves virtually no trace of the user's position. The shot itself was nearly silent, just a soft whisper as the arrow struck its target. The laboratory sensor arrays, designed to detect even minute energy fluctuations, barely registered the weapon's operation. Furthermore, Marcus continued, arrows can be recovered and reused. Unlike energy weapons that consume power cells, or projectile weapons that require manufactured ammunition, arrows can be crafted in the field from available materials and used repeatedly. Dr. Kelverin activated additional holographic scenarios. Show us applications in various environmental conditions. What followed was an intensive demonstration that stretched Marcus's knowledge to its limits. Zero-gravity environments where arrows maintain trajectory longer than expected. High wind conditions where heavy arrows performed better than light energy beams. Underwater scenarios where arrows remained effective while energy weapons failed completely. The most impressive demonstration came when Commander ZYX activated a combat simulation designed to challenge advanced weapon systems. The scenario involved infiltrating a heavily defended facility where energy weapons would trigger alarms and conventional firearms would alert guards. Marcus moved through the holographic environment with his bow, systematically neutralizing targets in complete silence. Sensors designed to detect plasma rifles, laser weapons, and kinetic projectile systems completely ignored his primitive weapon. Guards equipped with advanced detection equipment never realized they were under attack until too late. Extraordinary, Venthka observed. Your weapon operates beneath the detection threshold of most military sensors because they are calibrated for modern threats. More than that, Axiom 7 added. This technology represents an entirely different philosophical approach to warfare. Where we have pursued technological superiority, humans develop skill-based solutions that maintain effectiveness across a wide range of conditions. The implications were staggering. Every major military power in the galaxy had spent millennia developing increasingly sophisticated weapons that required complex support systems, rare materials, and extensive training on technological operation. Humans had instead perfected technologies that transformed individual skill into combat effectiveness. Commander ZYX floated closer to examine the compound bow Marcus had constructed. Cadet Chen, what would be required to train galactic military personnel in these techniques? Marcus considered carefully before responding. The technology is simple, but mastery requires extensive practice. On Earth, becoming truly proficient with a bow typically required years of regular training. However, basic competency for military applications could probably be achieved in a few months with intensive instruction. And manufacturing requirements? Minimal, Commander. A basic bow can be constructed by a single individual using hand tools and readily available materials. More advanced designs benefit from precision manufacturing, but even those require only basic industrial capabilities. Dr. Kelverin was already making calculations on his datapad. The strategic implications are profound. These weapons could be manufactured on any world with basic materials, distributed without complex logistics chains, and operated by personnel with minimal technological training. As the demonstration concluded, Marcus realized he had inadvertently revealed something that might change galactic military doctrine. These beings had achieved technological mastery beyond Earth's wildest dreams, but they had never considered that simpler solutions might offer unique advantages. Venthka approached Marcus with obvious respect. Cadet Chen, would you be willing to develop a comprehensive training program for these techniques? The Nexus Collective would like to explore incorporating these methods into our special operations curricula. I would be honored, Coordinator, Marcus replied, still somewhat amazed at the turn his simple classroom demonstration had taken. Axiom 7's geometric form pulsed with what Marcus had learned indicated intense processing. Query, are there other human technologies that achieve effectiveness through skill development rather than technological complexity? Marcus thought about his grandfather's other hobbies, about traditional human skills that persisted despite technological advancement. Yes, sir. Quite a few, actually. Bladework, tracking techniques, camouflage methods, even psychological warfare approaches that don't require any technology at all. The silence that followed was pregnant with possibility. Marcus had thought he was simply demonstrating an interesting weapon. Instead, he'd opened a window into human approaches to warfare that these advanced civilizations had never considered. Commander ZYX's mental voice carried new undertones of respect as she addressed him. Report to my office tomorrow morning, Cadet Chen. It appears your education here will be significantly different from what any of us originally planned. Walking back to his quarters, Marcus carried his improvised bow with new appreciation for what his grandfather had really taught him during those childhood summers. Skills that seemed obsolete in an age of starships and energy weapons had just become relevant to galactic military strategy. His communicator buzzed with a message from his grandfather back on Earth. Hope your studies are going well, Marcus. Remember, the old ways exist for good reasons. They wouldn't have survived thousands of years if they weren't effective. Marcus smiled, thinking that his grandfather might be more right than either of them had ever imagined. Sometimes the oldest solutions were exactly what the future needed to discover. 3 weeks later, Marcus stood before the largest gathering of military instructors he had ever seen. The Grand Assembly Hall of Kepler's 7 station buzzed with conversations in dozens of languages as representatives from across the galaxy examined the weapons displays he'd prepared. What had started as a simple classroom demonstration had evolved into something approaching a military revolution. Word of the primitive human weapons had spread through galactic command structures with surprising speed, generating interest from species that rarely agreed on anything. Nervous, asked Cathare, the serpentine Naga who had become an unexpected ally since volunteering for Marcus's first training sessions. Over the past weeks, she'd proven remarkably adept with the bow, her species' natural precision translating well to archery skills. Terrified, Marcus admitted, adjusting his dress uniform for the 3rd time. Yesterday I was a cadet struggling with quantum mechanics. Today I'm apparently teaching weapons doctrine to galactic civilization. Commander ZYX approached with her typical floating grace, accompanied by Admiral Freshka, a massive Threnodai whose biomechanical enhancements gleamed under the hall's lights. The Admiral's presence meant this demonstration would reach the highest levels of galactic military command. Cadet Chen, the Admiral's voice resonated through implanted speakers, your innovations have generated significant discussion among the Strategic Council. Some question whether primitive technologies deserve serious consideration in modern warfare. Others, Commander ZYX interjected, recognize that fresh perspectives can reveal overlooked advantages. Today's demonstration will address both viewpoints. Marcus nodded, leading them toward the first display station where Cathare and several other student volunteers waited with various bow designs. Over the past weeks, they developed a comprehensive curriculum that showcased not just archery, but the human approach to skill-based warfare that had fascinated his instructors. The fundamental difference, Marcus began as representatives gathered around, is philosophical. Most galactic military doctrine focuses on technological force multiplication using advanced tools to exceed individual limitations. Human approaches often emphasize skill development that enhances individual capabilities through training rather than technology. He gestured to Cathare, who smoothly drew a compound bow and sent an arrow into a target 50 meters away with casual precision. 3 weeks ago, Cadet Cathare had never seen a bow. Today, she can achieve consistent accuracy at ranges that would challenge many technological weapons systems. Dr. Vex Morlach, a renowned crystalline military theorist, approached the display with obvious skepticism. His species had developed weapon systems that could reshape matter at the molecular level, making simple projectile weapons seem almost comically primitive. Impressive for basic training, Vex Morlach observed, but surely advanced targeting systems provide superior accuracy with less training time required. Marcus had anticipated this challenge. He activated a holographic display showing training progression charts that had amazed even him. Advanced targeting systems require technological infrastructure, power sources, maintenance, and replacement when damaged. Bow skills, once learned, require no external support and actually improve with practice rather than degrading over time. Furthermore, added Cathare, stepping forward with confidence that surprised Marcus, the mental discipline required for archery mastery enhances other military skills. Improved focus, patience, hand-eye coordination, and tactical thinking that apply to numerous battlefield situations. Admiral Freshka's optical enhancements focused on the training data. Show us combat applications, Cadet Chen. Training statistics are meaningless without battlefield effectiveness. Marcus led the group to the simulation arena where his most advanced students waited. Over 3 weeks of intensive training, they developed proficiency that had impressed even Commander ZYX. More importantly, they'd begun adapting human techniques to their own species' capabilities in ways Marcus hadn't expected. Combat Scenario Alpha, Marcus announced to the arena's control systems. The environment transformed into a urban warfare simulation with multiple targets, obstacles, and time pressure designed to challenge conventional weapons training. Cathare entered first, moving through the scenario with fluid grace that showcased her species' natural agility enhanced by archery training. Her accuracy remained consistent even under stress, and her silent movement through the environment demonstrated tactical advantages that energy weapons couldn't provide. No electromagnetic signature, observed Captain Yithka from the Hive Mind Collective. Sensors calibrated for modern weapons would not detect this approach. Next came Korvac, the massive Threnodai whose initial skepticism about primitive human toys had transformed into genuine enthusiasm. His biomechanical enhancements allowed him to draw bows that would challenge heavy machinery, sending arrows through barriers that would stop conventional projectiles. Armor penetration capabilities are remarkable, Admiral Threshka noted approvingly. Simple kinetic force applied with precision exceeds expectations. But the real revelation came when Zeta Prime, the synthetic being, demonstrated how artificial intelligence could integrate archery skills with computational targeting. The combination of human technique with synthetic processing created accuracy levels that amazed even Marcus. Observation: Zeta Prime announced as their final arrow struck a moving target at maximum range. Human skill-based approaches provide algorithms for problem-solving that synthetic consciousness had not previously explored. Integration yields capabilities that neither approach could achieve independently. Dr. Kelverin stepped forward with data displays showing the broader implications of the training program. Preliminary studies suggest that students who master these human techniques show improved performance across multiple military disciplines. Problem-solving abilities, stress management, tactical thinking, and adaptability all demonstrate measurable enhancement. The murmur that rippled through the assembled representatives carried tones Marcus was learning to recognize as surprise and interest across multiple species. He'd expected them to focus on the weapons themselves, but they were responding to the broader implications of human training methodologies. These techniques could supplement existing military education, observed Coordinator Ventka. Not replacing advanced technologies, but providing foundational skills that enhance their effectiveness. Commander ZYX activated additional displays showing strategic scenarios where traditional weapons had proven inadequate. Consider operations in electromagnetic pulse environments where energy weapons fail. Infiltration missions where technological signatures must be minimized. Extended deployments where supply lines are compromised. Marcus watched as military minds that had spent careers thinking in terms of technological solutions began recognizing situations where simple, skill-based approaches offered unique advantages. The bow had been impressive, but it was the human philosophy behind it that truly captured their attention. Request demonstration of additional human techniques, called out General Crix Tal, whose species had dominated galactic special operations for 2 centuries. Are projectile weapons the extent of these approaches? Marcus grinned, gesturing to additional display stations he'd prepared with help from the Academy's fabrication systems. Not even close, General. Human warfare developed dozens of technologies that emphasize skill over complexity. The next hour showcased techniques that left the galactic representatives speechless. Silent movement methods that required no technological cloaking. Hand-to-hand combat systems that could neutralize opponents with superior physical enhancements. Camouflage techniques that defeated advanced sensors through understanding of perception rather than technological invisibility. Most impressive was the demonstration of human tactical thinking, the ability to analyze complex situations and develop solutions using available resources rather than predetermined technological responses. Marcus's students worked through scenarios that required creative problem-solving, showing adaptability that sophisticated weapon systems couldn't match. Extraordinary, breathed Dr. Vex Morlack, his earlier skepticism replaced by obvious fascination. Your species approaches warfare as a creative endeavor rather than a technological one. Both approaches have value, Marcus replied diplomatically. But human history suggests that adaptability and skill often prove more durable than technological superiority alone. Admiral Threshka approached with the bearing of someone who had made a significant decision. Cadet Chen, the Strategic Council will be implementing these training methods across multiple military academies. However, this raises a question: will you accept promotion to instructor status and lead development of this new curriculum? Marcus felt the weight of the moment. 6 months ago, he'd been a struggling cadet trying to keep up with alien technologies. Now he was being offered the opportunity to influence galactic military doctrine. I would be honored, Admiral, he replied. But I'd like to request that this program emphasize collaboration between human methods and existing galactic techniques rather than replacement. The real strength comes from combining different approaches. Coordinator Ventka's approval was evident in the harmonic tones that needed no translation. Wisdom beyond your years, Instructor Chen. Integration rather than replacement will yield superior results. As the demonstration concluded and representatives began discussing implementation details, Marcus reflected on how a simple classroom assignment had evolved into something that might influence military thinking across hundreds of civilizations. His grandfather's childhood lessons had become relevant to galactic strategy in ways no one could have predicted. Kethare approached with a newly crafted bow, its design incorporating Naga ergonomic requirements with human archery principles. This collaboration produces innovations that neither species could develop independently, she observed. Perhaps that is the most important lesson from all of this. Marcus nodded, watching as alien military minds discussed training schedules and curriculum development for techniques their civilizations had never imagined. Sometimes the most advanced solutions came from looking backward instead of forward, finding wisdom in approaches that had been tested across millennia of human experience. His communicator chimed with a message from his grandfather, heard through official channels that you're making quite an impression up there. Remember, teaching is about sharing knowledge, not showing off what you know. Help them find their own paths to mastery. As always, his grandfather's advice was perfectly timed. Marcus was no longer just demonstrating human weapons, he was opening doorways to human ways of thinking that might benefit the entire galaxy. The real adventure was just beginning. 6 months later, Instructor Marcus Chen stood in the observation deck of the newly constructed Human Studies Wing, watching advanced galactic military personnel practice techniques that would have been familiar to his Stone Age ancestors. The irony wasn't lost on him that the galaxy's most sophisticated warriors were learning to craft arrows and track movement patterns that predated written language. The latest batch of graduates is impressive, observed Master Instructor Yilpava, a ethereal whose people had reluctantly admitted that their traditional energy manipulation techniques benefited from human-style mental discipline training. Cross-species adaptation rates exceed all projections. Through the reinforced viewing port, Marcus watched a diverse group of beings that represented the military elite from across known space. Korvac worked with 3 other Threnodidae, their massive forms moving with surprising grace as they practiced stealth approaches that combined biomechanical advantages with human stalking techniques. Nearby, a cluster of synthetic consciousnesses had developed computational archery algorithms that pushed accuracy far beyond what purely human techniques could achieve. The most remarkable sight was Zeta Prime leading a mixed group through what humans would recognize as a traditional tracking exercise. The artificial being had become fascinated with human intuitive reasoning processes, developing hybrid analytical methods that combine synthetic processing with organic pattern recognition. Report from the Nexus Defense Council came through this morning, Commander ZYX announced as she floated into the observation deck. Initial field trials have exceeded expectations. Units trained in human techniques are showing significant performance improvements in unconventional warfare scenarios. Marcus nodded, though part of him remained amazed that classroom demonstrations had led to galaxy-wide military doctrine changes. The Human Studies Wing now hosted over 300 advanced students from 47 different species, each adapting techniques to their unique physiologies and cultural backgrounds. There's been an interesting development, Yilpava continued, activating a holographic display that showed star charts with highlighted systems. Several species have requested permission to send cultural anthropologists alongside.